It's a story you've all been waiting for. Tucker Carlson's interview with Larry Sinclair, a man who claims that he engaged in adult relations with former President Barack Obama while he was a state senator. And I will say right off the bat, I don't care. It's nonsense. I think this is WWE style political drama. There is no legitimate political reason. Well, let me slow down. There's no legitimate factual reason to interview a con artist and crackhead who's making these absurd claims. I'm not a fan of this. I wasn't a fan of it when they did it to Brett Kavanaugh. I'm not a fan of it now. That being said, I applaud Tucker Carlson for doing it. You know why? Welcome to the tit for tat world of politics. So to clarify, there's a political reason to do this, to attack the Democrats, I guess, to make them look like degenerates, to strike at the credibility of the Obamas, maybe to prevent Michelle Obama from gaining traction or to create just some negative press around the Obamas. Fine, whatever. Simply put, the Democrats, the left, and the media in this country entertained the most psychotic lies you could imagine about Brett Kavanaugh. Tucker Carlson is simply engaging in the exact same behavior. Now, I'm no fan of it. I don't care if it's Tucker or anyone else doing it. But I can certainly understand that if you're playing a game, as I described, like Monopoly, and you're watching the opponent cheat over and over again, and you keep just playing by the rules, you're going to lose. This is Tucker Carlson saying, if you can pull cash from the bank in Monopoly, so can I. And that's the game. It's the game that Democrats created. It's the game they wanted to play. It's how we ended up with a lopsided Supreme Court. Democrats wanted to get rid of the nuclear or use the nuclear option so they could steamroll through, and they were warned. If you remove the filibuster, we're going to steamroll in Supreme Court justices, and that's exactly what Donald Trump did. Now they want to play this game. They want to keep playing games they cannot win. You know, for a long time, the Democrats had institutional control, and that's not so much the Democrats, but the Uniparty. As they now lose institutional control, they're going for this game of manipulation and force, which I do not believe they can win without culture. And as we see the failings of many of these big corporations that get woke and go broke, I can say outright, you opened the door to these lies and manipulations, and good luck fending them off when the media apparatus is shifting and going independent. But let's talk about the claims. And more importantly, this segment is not so much about the veracity of the claims against Barack Obama. I think it's probably nonsense. Maybe it's true, but probably not. It's probably just grifters going to grift. A guy wants to make these claims because it makes him money or generates notoriety. He's made these claims going back all the way to, I think, pre-2008. Nonsense. But the bigger story in all of this is the political space and what it has become, what we are doing and why we're doing it. Because it's multi-layered. Earlier this morning, I did a segment talking about civil war and how we get to this point. It is not so much that people want to fight. Most people just want to be left alone. But the issue is that politicians generate votes by claiming to be one side or the other. And that is, you'll get grifters on the internet propping up a story because it generates points for them. And you'll get politicians reacting to those stories and saying, if you vote for me, I will engage in this circumstance with how you want it engaged. For instance, there's in a lawsuit against Trump in New York, the judge wants the lawyer wants an immediate verdict. Just skip the trial and say Trump's guilty. These are people who are saying, if you vote for me, I will go after Trump. I will go after the far left. And that's all you get. Now, instead of saying, I'm going to fix healthcare, I'm going to end the wars, it's we are going to bring accountability to the evil people. You know what I think? For the longest time, Democrats have played dirty and evil games. That's it. And the right, whether it's post-liberal, former Democrats or other conservatives or otherwise, have always just said, we'll play by the rules. Well, now that's broken. And this is what you get. Here's the story from Indy 100. Tucker Carlson to interview con man who claims he slept with Barack Obama. Oh, boy. Tucker Carlson announced he has interviewed the man who claims to have had sex with Obama in 1999, with the interview to be released Wednesday. I just want to say this. It's coming out in a few hours. I don't care if Obama did. It's whatever. But you know what? It gets clicks. I think the tweet, the trailer for the episode has like 40 million tweet impressions. So, yeah, you want to play political entertainment news? This is what you get. Since Carlson was let go from Fox earlier this year, he has begun his new show, Tucker on X. On Tuesday, Carlson released a clip with Larry Sinclair, the man who is claiming he had sex with former President Obama. In the clip, Sinclair also claims to have smoked crack with Obama. In the minute-long clip uploaded by Carlson X, Sinclair tells Carlson that he pulled up in a bar outside, and there's this guy introduced to me as Barack Obama. Well, here's the clip. 50.2 million tweet views. And it's only a minute long, so I hope you're ready for this. Here we go. Actually, let me make sure I have the audio set properly, as I always.
You're just a guy who's in town for the night, and it sounds like you're looking to party.
Yeah. Pulled up in a bar outside, and there's this guy that's introduced to me as Barack Obama. I had given Barack $250 to pay for coke. I start putting a line on a CD tray to snort, and next thing I know, he's got a little pipe and he's smoking. So
I'm going to pause. Well, I'll play a little bit more.
Started rubbing my hand along his thigh to see where it was going, and it went the direction I had intended it to go.
I'm going to pause there. I don't want to have it go too far. He elaborates a little bit more than that, but, in the event you've got kids hanging out, we'll just leave it at that and let the innuendo be the innuendo. Now, here's why there's credibility to this story, and it's all starting to come out now. Don't get me wrong. The Larry Sinclair story has been around for a very long time. The story emerged around, I think, 2008. And the interesting thing there is that there's a previous interview with Dinesh D'Souza. D'Souza, however you pronounce it. Sorry, Dinesh. Where, I get your name wrong. Where Larry Sinclair says that after he came public, he went public and said that he engaged in these activities, doing drugs and having adult relations with Barack Obama. He was indicted 2 weeks later on false charges. Take it or leave it. I'll tell you what this may be. A guy who is a con man with a large rap sheet is being targeted. And so he says, okay, one way to cause damage is to make false claims. However, considering how far back this story goes, it's entirely possible. And considering what we know about Barack Obama's proclivities, there is reason to believe it actually might be true. Take a look at this story from the New York Post, which is going viral. Barack Obama told X that let's just we'll keep it a little vague. He fantasizes about men, about engaging in adult relations with males. Former President Obama wrote of his own androgynous mind and making love to men daily in his imagination, according to the redacted portion of a notorious 1982 letter obtained by the Post. The more than 40-year-old letter to an ex-girlfriend recently resurfaced after Obama biographer David Garrow gave a long and winding interview on the one-time commander-in-chief. In regard to, I'm not going to read the quote from Obama, but it's in the letter where he basically says that he fantasizes about men. When he was younger, he made this claim in a letter. We now know the letter exists. The statements are, according to all of these different news outlets, correct. And this is causing a resurfacing of the story pertaining to Larry Sinclair. Now, we have this article from the AV Club in 2020 talking about Dinesh D'Souza and his Trump card film. And they mention Trump card. Dinesh D'Souza's fifth biannual election season exercise in creative nonfiction filmmaking trots out his usual array of racist dog whistles, low production value historical reenactments, and interviews with a dizzying, dubious array of subjects. This round's guests include former Trump associate George Papadopoulos, who served 12 days in federal prison for lying to the FBI about his contact with Russia, and C-list conspiracy nut Larry Sinclair, who gets another chance to trot out his claims that he had adult relations with Barack Obama. Oh boy, here we go. The pink news. Where it gets interesting is that the left's response to this is that based on hearing this news, they like Barack Obama more. I don't know exactly what the point is of Tucker Carlson interviewing this guy other than it's sensational, gets clicks, and everybody wants to talk about it. Again, I actually look forward to moving past this so we can talk about the grifting nature of the modern media and what it's doing to society, but let me just give you the basic update. The left response. Pink News says Tucker Carlson criticized over interview with criminal who claims he had gay sex with Obama. They go on to mention on Wednesday, there's the interview, the clip, blah, blah, blah. His allegations are compounded by the fact that he's a long criminal record dating back to the 80s, including convictions for forgery, fraud, and larceny. He served prison sentences in the states of Arizona, Florida, and Colorado. In addition, in the early 2000s, Sinclair signed an affidavit stating he is terminally ill, seemingly in the hope of getting a warrant dismissed. Ex-users were quick to criticize Carlson for giving a platform to the convicted criminal, as well as dredging up conspiracy theories which reek of homophobia. And there it is. You got to say, how dare you? Influencer Matt Bernstein wrote in a tongue-in-cheek post, Tucker Carlson has a history of reporting LGBT stories with honesty and integrity. Haha. Meanwhile, liberal fake news website, The Palmer Report, I love that. Tucker Carlson's relevance ended the minute he lost his spot on cable news. Now, like so many irrelevant has-beens, he's resorting to humiliating himself with nonsensical antics in a desperate attempt at getting people to remember he exists. No, I'll tell you what I think this is. I think this is the Christine Blasey Ford. This is the rebuttal to that. What's that other woman's name? I have that story pulled up. Julie Swetnick. Let's talk about this, and we'll talk about the tit for tat nature of what you have created, leftists and Democrats. Who is Larry Sinclair? He first told his story in 2008. Now, a lot of people are saying that he's a con artist and a crackhead with missing teeth. That is a bit unfair. The story goes back 24 years. Okay, he was a bit younger, and I don't know if he was missing teeth back then. So I don't know how old he is now. Obama is what, 62? So he's claiming that 24 years ago, Obama was a bit younger, and this is when they engaged in adult relations. The guy's now older, so he looks the way he looks. This is the modern state of politics. You may be saying it's stupid, I don't care. Fine, you're allowed to think so. I don't like these stories. It's a waste of time. But you know what? This is what it has devolved into. I'm not going to celebrate Tucker Carlson playing the same game, but I will applaud him. Let me clarify. I will not applaud Tucker Carlson for doing WWE politics. I will applaud him for countering. I'm not a big fan of where all this is going, but I understand why he's doing it. And it is more complicated than just he's a grifter trying to make money. No, I think Tucker Carlson's saying, if you want to throw mud, we throw mud back. How about this? Christine Blasey Ford's testimony, how her testimony changed America. She lied. She lied. Come on, there's no question. Remember this? Brett Kavanaugh, what was the story? Well, Brett Kavanaugh was a federal judge. He was already vetted to be a federal judge. So to make him a Supreme Court justice, it's kind of a routine procedural thing. You've already been vetted. You're a federal judge. Congratulations. Now, if he wasn't a federal judge and they wanted to get like some other legal scholar appointed to the Supreme Court, sure, fine, whatever. But here we go again. In the vetting, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford made up the most psychotic story one could ever imagine, and the left pretended that it was real. For real. No sane, rational person actually believed what this lying psychopath had to say. And this is the nature of the culture war and brooding civil strife, whatever you want to call it. Evil, deranged psychopaths like Christine Blasey Ford and Julie Swetnick lying in insane ways for political power. Now, come on. We know they're lying. They know we know they're lying. They do it anyway. Why? They want you to be afraid. They want you to know they can say whatever they want, no matter how stupid and psychotic it is, and people will bend the knee. Oh, let's break down her story and why she's a liar. First, said she had anxiety and she feared flying, and then she was questioned about all the vacations she took. She said she had to install a second door in her home because she was scared and needed alternate egress. Okay, well, a lot of houses have multiple entrance and exits. Turns out she was actually just doing an Airbnb or something like that. She's lying. Her story? 30 some odd years ago at a party, Brett Kavanaugh threw her on a bed and held her down, and then his friend jumped on the bed and they rolled around and she got up and left. That's it. That's the story, I guess. Her friend said, I have no idea what she's talking about. I don't even remember that. That's right. Her friend, who was apparently with her at this time at these parties, was like, I have no idea what she's talking about. Christine Blasey Ford is a liar. She lied. Brett Kavanaugh, just some dude, he gets brought in, accused of the most vile and psychotic things you can imagine. Take a look at this from Vanity Fair. Is Avenatti's gang rape bombshell the end of Brett Kavanaugh? 2018. That's right. Here you go. You ready for this one? Julie Swetnick signed affidavit, a veteran of several government agencies holding security clearance. She claimed, she swore under oath, that she attended at least 10 parties where she says she witnessed Kavanaugh, Mark Judge, and others cause girls to become inebriated and disoriented so they could be gang raped in a side room or bedroom by a train of numerous boys. She added that she has a firm recollection of seeing boys lined up outside rooms as many of these parties waiting for their turn with a girl in the room, including both Judge and Kavanaugh. Wow. So when a guy comes out and says that he once bought drugs for Obama, and I think we know Obama did a bunch of drugs, and we know Obama has fantasies about doing dudes, and a guy's like, yeah, we hooked up. It's not even the most remarkable story. I got to be honest. You're talking about the South Side of Chicago. A dude says that he was slinging drugs with another dude and they hooked up. And I'm like, okay, welcome to Chicago, I guess. Am I supposed to believe that doesn't happen? The question is whether or not you believe Barack Obama would do something like that. Well, I don't know what Barack Obama does or whatever he's into. Just because he's president doesn't mean he's a good person. Are we going to sit here and claim that Trump isn't lewd and lascivious and doesn't have multiple wives or whatever? Come on. Trump's got his character flaws. He is what's the word? A player or whatever? I don't know. He's a rich guy who bragged about how you can grab women. We get it. You think Barack Obama, another high value male, as they like to call it, wasn't engaging in these behaviors? Come on. It's nonsense. Let's break down where we're at. They claimed that Brett Kavanaugh, a family man, was engaged in parties where men lined up outside of the rooms and ran trains on girls by force. Okay, I'm sorry. That one is out there. Why? Because it doesn't happen. If something like that were to ever be reported, it would be the biggest scandal in the country. We had the Duke lacrosse team and that lady of the night and the claims made regarding that. We know that it was mostly false. But you have one woman say like, oh, look what these guys did. And it's the biggest scandal. You're telling me that at this school, you have witnesses and no one ever said anything. Yeah. Outright lies and psychotic behavior. This is the story that precipitates what you get with Larry Sinclair and Barack Obama today. Now, I know, excuse me, Larry Sinclair's been talking about this stuff for a long time. The press didn't report on it. It wasn't in the mainstream. It wasn't in the news. Tucker is reviving these stories. Dinesh revives these stories because of what we're seeing here. You want to play the game? They'll play the game. This is where it all goes. Let's talk about our good friends, the Krasensteins. Ed Krasenstein says, if you're going to believe a random guy on Tucker Carlson's show who claims to have done something with Obama, yet not believe a woman who successfully sued Trump for defamation and assault in a court of law, you're showing your bias. Well, I'll pause right there. The woman who claimed that Donald Trump had his way with her in that department store where nobody was around for whatever reason, she sued him for defamation or something. It's the most insane story I've ever heard. Donald Trump, arguably one of the most famous men in the world at the time, especially in New York, entered a department store where seemingly no one was around, and the changing rooms, which are normally locked, were somehow opened this time around. Nobody noticed, so they went inside and they hooked up. That's the argument. It's nonsense. These are people just making up stories. That's why I don't care for this guy, Larry Sinclair. I've had stories made up about me, nowhere near as insane as this, but people have made up stories about me, which are just outright false. My favorite was someone who tweeted, Tim Pool showed up to my house at 2 a.m, went inside and turned the TV on and woke everyone up. And there were people responding in earnest, like, wow, I can't believe he'd do that. Like, are you crazy? You really think that I, sitting in the same room on camera every day, traveled halfway across the country in the middle of the night, went to someone's house and turned the... Sure, whatever. Okay, to be fair, the accusation they're making was from before I was doing 2 shows every day, sun up to sundown. This is back when I was a traveling journalist on the ground and doing all of that stuff. Now I'm doing more managerial type journalism stuff, phone calls, comments, research, and commentary, which is a bit different. I do all of the story production for my morning show and for Timcast IRL. For the most part, sometimes people make suggestions, but I do almost all of the fact checking and sourcing myself. They're arguing that while I was going to Spain or Ukraine or Turkey or whatever, that I happened to show up at their house at 2 a.m. People believe it. Because this is the nature of politics right now. Whatever serves the purpose, whatever generates attention. It's where we're at. Ed says that's bias. Sure. He goes on to say America's made up of hypocrites. We are all hypocrites to some degree. We all use whataboutisms. We all have confirmation bias. We're all biased in some way. We all claim to love freedom, yet justify reasons for taking other people's freedom away. We all create narratives, blah, blah, blah. No, that's just you, because I think you guys are evil people. This statement, when he says we are all, what he's really saying is he recognizes he is, and for that, he presumes and projects the world he sees onto other people. No, let's break this down. I think it's fair to say we're imperfect and that we make mistakes and we try to be good. But I'll tell you this. I've long broken down the moral structures of our actual arguments and not the logical structures. We've had many a conversation on this show, as well as Timcast IRL, about a logical structure versus a moral structure. For instance, you get the right saying the parents have ultimate rights in what happens with their kids. And the left says as well, parents have the ultimate rights in what happens to their kids. When it comes to parental rights on the right, they'll say something like, you can't force a kid to get vaccinated, but the complicated position here I'm trying to bring up is there is an imperfect, not necessarily mirror image view of what parental rights means. For the left, they'll say the government should be allowed to mandate vaccines because that's in the best interest. It's the right thing to do. Schools should do this to protect kids. And if the parents don't allow the kid to get vaccinated, we should protect the child. The right will have an inverted view where it's the parents have a right to stop it. So let's pause right there and talk about child transition as the simplest view of moral foundations versus logical ones. If a child says they want to get a sex change, a parent to the left who denies that is abusive. On the right, a parent who allows it is abusive. But they both argue the same thing, protecting the child. And that is where logic does not play a role. It does, but let me clarify. The left says we must protect children. The right says we must protect children. But those statements don't describe the moral framework for what is allowed and what isn't. That is to say, if the child wants to get, surgery, the parent should intervene to protect the child, so saith the adults. If the government wants to give vaccines, the parent should have the right to determine whether or not they do. So it's not, I guess what I'm trying to point out, and I could probably be a bit more succinct as I have in the past, but my point is basically, it's not a simple line of here's the principle by which we abide by and we move forward, because there are moral questions about when we accept something and when we don't. That's on you, Krasensteins, not on people who are actively trying to figure out what our moral frameworks are. Here's a video of Ed Krasenstein showing a video loop, which is just a gimmick. It's a car crashing, driving away, and the same car keeps crashing. And he says, can anyone explain what's happening here? Yeah, engagement bait. He's trying to get people to comment so he makes money. That's what he does. It's what they both do. It's their grift. Welcome. Shout out to the response he made, and I'll wrap this video up with this. I tweeted, "This is what Democrats fear," and it's an image of a super buff and ripped Donald Trump. I have been accused of trying to generate money by doing so. But in reality, the people claiming I'm trying to make money are trying to make money. If you look at my Instagram or Twitter history, well before there was monetization, I was posting these jokey, ridiculous posts. The gag is that Donald Trump is a portly fellow who's nearly 80. And by having an image of him with his aging face on a ripped body, I am mocking the entirety of the political space. Of course, ad response, I don't get it. Democrats fear a Donald Trump who isn't out of shape. Why would Democrats care about what Donald Trump's chest, arms, and abs look like? Does that make him more fearful? Question. You get the point. The goal of this is that my post, which is clearly nonsensical, he's trying to generate engagement off of. Welcome to the modern era. You have a combination of people who despise the other side, who want suffering for their enemies. They like Schadenfreude. And then you have people like the Krasensteins who will say literally anything to generate engagement because they're making a lot of money doing it. To be fair, I've made silly posts mocking the idea of engagement. But dude, this is always what my Twitter has been. And I posted I've got a ripped Joe Biden post as well. Nobody seems to care about those. That's kind of the point. Democrats love talking about Trump. They don't care to talk about Joe Biden. But in the end, let me wrap up this video by saying this. If you wanted to know why Tucker Carlson's interviewing this person, you need look only at the modern state of affairs in this country. Either it's people who know they'll get engagement off of the conflict, people who are playing tit for tat, or people who want you to hate other people. Pick your poison, I guess. I'll leave it there. I look forward to seeing this interview. Maybe there will be proof. I really doubt it. Next video will be coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.